to be okay with one, because we're going to go back and forth.
You hear me, Ryan?
Oh, thank you, Joe. See, this is why you show up in person. Homebridge brings you ice cream. All right, guys. Welcome, welcome, everyone. We'll be starting in about 2-3 minutes so. We got 7 people right now. 10's the over-under. How much you got on 10? Always go for the over. They all thought that. That's okay. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
You're gonna pick up on any.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm. Okay. So let me see if I can. I don't think we have access to Office. And that's why you don't. I can't go full screen. I can't. Yeah, you can see it. I'm looking at the screen right now and I can see it. All right. No, it really doesn't. All right, we've got about 9 people in now. So we're very close. Tell your friends, tell your family. Hi there. Oh, I'll take that for you. Yeah. And I don't know his pin. Let me go grab him for you. Here. All right. When Nick gets back, we should be good to go. So while we're waiting, does anyone want to drop any questions into chat? Does anyone have any questions so far? Just stuff you're looking forward to learning about? Red light means on. What brought you guys into the commercial presentation? What are you hoping to learn? What are you hoping to gain from this? Drop it into chat. Let me hear you. I mean, I have it here. I can show you. I can show you guys if you want. Oh, drop in the six. Okay. Mm-hmm. Hey. I guess a couple of them fell off. Yeah. Just trying to get some interaction. All right. Sure. Perfect. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our commercial segment of our focus group day. I want to give a special introduction to the heads of the commercial focus group, Mr. Nick Cantu and Gary Walswick, two of our prominent commercial agents here at KW Vision, trying to get the KW commercial brand started. And thank you so much for joining us. Without any further ado, Gary, go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Ryan.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're coming to you from our beautiful and luscious office in Chino Hills. And it's pretty lonely. We are hoping that as we grow, that more people will actually jump in and be in person. So let me give you a little context to where we're going with this commercial division conversation, and we will, unless Ryan jumps in with comments from you guys, we'll actually move fairly quickly to give you, if nothing else, a pretty broad overview of what we're doing and where we're headed. And Nick will jump in and do a deeper dive on actual referral guidelines, which is what we think everybody is hopefully looking forward to finding more out about. So when we met with Brian a while back, what is the commercial division going to do? We committed to a 2022 goal for the entire division of 1 million GCI, which is a lot when there really isn't a good calculation of what that starting point is. But we put a fairly lofty target out there to chase. Now, Nick and I have been around this operation for about not quite a year, but pretty close to that. Basically kind of getting the the feel for the office and figuring out where leadership wanted to go with this, and we're actively in the game, which we'll talk about as we go. And during that time, and this is important to mention, but I won't go deep here. Our from a corporate level, the commercial division launched a whole new rebuild agenda, from the top down. It's been a long time coming, but we'll show the benefits of, and a lot of the resources that are coming from on high, I'll be frank with you, have not been there up until recently, and we're looking forward to working with a lot more air cover, if you will, as we roll out on a local basis. So our job is to develop and build the commercial division, which means getting into the marketplace and penetrating to get a deeper share of the market. And I'll address a couple of those topics as we go through here. So the first priority that we have as a part of our goals is develop an infrastructure platform. Basically doesn't exist, hasn't existed, and some of that is actually coming from on high, but we have a commercial division policies and procedures form that we are in review process with Brian right now, and was approved this morning. So we'll be rolling that out here pretty quickly. Oh, come on in. Hi, Karen. Second thing, the referral guidelines. Nick will do a deeper dive into that. We got a whole set of slides to kind of go over how that works. We are going to have a mentoring plan that Nick and I have been formulating and frankly experimenting with, and that will be rolled out. And that's for people that are coming in from either the inside or the outside, looking to get in and learn commercial from the ground floor up. I mentioned the KW commercial from the corporate level is rolling out more guidelines for us. They will be releasing right after family reunion what they call a playbook, which is basically to any given market center, the procedures, the policies, rules, regs, whatever you want to call them, of how to establish, build, and grow a commercial division. So we are slightly ahead of the curve, but more input is coming. This is how the whole game is going to be rebuilt. Gary Keller has an agenda that pretty much wants a commercial division established in nearly every market center across the country, which gives us a huge advantage in the commercial business for all companies, in that we have more hands-on brick and mortar operations in parts of the country than any other commercial operation, which we hopefully will be in a position to exploit. Now, the bigger part of of what is rolling out is KW Commercial is launching as part of this whole rebuild, continuing education program that I'll say in all honesty is probably going to be the best training program from start to finish available in the commercial side of the business. Keller Williams has always had this strong commitment to education. That has not always applied to the commercial side of the business. It is now there, and what they're rolling out with, again, right after family reunion, is going to be significant and give us leverage both inside the operation and in our recruiting effort, which I will talk about in a second. Let me take a quick pause there, Ryan, to see if any input, questions.
Well, I was going to ask you,
Do it.
and then anyone who's in the Zoom chat or Karen here in person, feel free to piggyback off of it or ask any questions of your own. What, in your opinion, is making this the best commercial training process that you guys are rolling out? What, like, if we could do a little bit of a deeper dive into that.
I'll give you the answer in a personal experience, because I've been doing this since I jumped out of the corporate world for about 15 years now. And I jumped to a company that you may or may not know the name. It was called NAI Capital, fairly strong player here in the Inland Empire. Now, I jumped up with a lot of business experience, a lot of management experience, but not necessarily brokerage, even though I've been licensed since the mid 70s. But I made a career change and went into the corporate side of real estate, but ended up in brokerage. So I went in there with the idea that, okay, I'm going to go learn how to be a broker. The training commitment was lackluster at best. The only way that I learned anything at that period of time was latching on to people that had been in the business, because a structured training program didn't exist. What is rolling out in our company today is a complete 180 from that, where you can get training from the basic levels. There's a program coming out called Nucleus that has been developed by commercial technicians, experts in their field, and implemented by a group of commercial experts, that is going to be delivered in two fashions. One is an online, play as you go, or there will be periodic on-site, in-person events. I mean, that Nucleus program, I think, is 8 weeks or 12 weeks. Yeah, 8 weeks, fairly significant time commitment, but basically will take you cradle to grave in rolling out. What's interesting is that program, now you couldn't buy it from the outside. And 4 months ago, when it was first rolled out, it was, I think, $695 to go to that class. And it is included in our commercial platform as one of the offerings when you sign up to be a commercial broker within the Keller Williams system. That's included. Now, they also, you may know about the MAPS training program. Have never had a commercial platform inside MAPS. We do now. And we have a position that is going to be a much more active part of family reunion and mega camp and some of the other things. So, and it all rolls out from, I mean, I was on a Zoom thing with Gary Keller, and he has jumped in personally and says, I want this done. And things are getting done. We have 3 leaders running different segments of the country that are now in place with product specialty divisions rolling out. I mean, it's actually pretty exciting, and great timing to be a part of it. And we have the chance to kind of piggyback on that in building the Chino Hills Vision platform for commercial. So that's a long-winded answer to your question, but anyway, let me move on to priority number 2, which is the marketing campaign that we call Impact, which is identify, measure, plan, and act. Our focus is going to need to be internal and external. I'm going to give you an example what I'm talking about with that. We just came, Nick and I were at a tour for a industrial property 5 minutes away from our office. And it turns out, and as we're shaking hands with the broker who has that listing, has somewhere between 15 and 17 tours set up today for one simple 10,000 square foot industrial building. He literally had them lined up out the door. So it turns out that he is a KW commercial guy from Los Angeles that has a listing in our backyard 5 minutes from our office. So we were talking about that. He goes, "Where are you guys from?" And we told him about the Chino Hills office. And he goes, "I didn't know you had an office there. I didn't know you guys did commercial out here," which points out to the challenge that kind of lays out in front of us. We need to position ourselves in a much stronger, branding way in the marketplace externally. And then internal focus is every week when we're in here, and I will say most of the time we're out in the field, but every time we come in, we're bound to have somebody goes, "Well, who are you and what do you do, for the division?" Because they don't know that we have commercial. So we have a big responsibility, and it starts now. This is what we're doing, why we're taking the time to do this, is begin to expose the operation in general to what we're doing as a specialty market, along with luxury and the other pieces that you may have tuned in today. So strategy 3 is target market penetration. I'm going to simplify it by saying there's a lot of pieces to the commercial game, office, industrial, retail, which is storefronts, multi-tenant. On that, we've got multifamily, and we even do business opportunities. Trying to figure out where our best places are to attack is what target market penetration is. And in the identify, measure, plan, and act, it's the identify and measure piece of that. Where are we going to get the most bang for our buck with the limited manpower and resources that we have to attack? But we're gonna get out there and get after it, and we already are. A social media blitz is something that falls heavily within Nick's expertise. In another life, he has that kind of company. So we are already getting more social media coverage than we have ever, I think. The 5th part is networking. Takes a couple of different forms. It's being active in the marketplace with events and different activities, investment groups, that kind of thing. But more importantly, a lot of this game, particularly in the kind of market that we're at right now, is your own broker network, because you may run into this in the residential side. There's certainly a lot of discussion about it, but a lot of guys are pocketing listings before they hit the marketplace, and there's this backside network of guys trading leads between each other. And if I was looking for something that I can't find in the regular databases, we're going to make calls to some of the guys we know that specialize in those areas and say, "Have you got anything?" And very often it's like, "Yeah, we haven't turned loose of this one yet, but I think we might have what you're looking for." So that network is a key part of penetrating the marketplace. So another quick break.
We have a question here in chat from Brian.
Fire away.
Brian, you still there?
Yeah, Mercedes had a question. I think you guys are going to cover it later on in regards to how the referral process works.
Yes. Deeper dive on that.
Okay. Yeah. I told her that, however,
Yeah. Nick's gonna jump on that in about 5 minutes and has like 6 or 7 slides.
Thank you.
You're
she
welcome.
says thank you.
Any other questions?
I will say this, not an answer to that, but I think it needs saying that a big part of what we're trying to accomplish is getting many more of the people in the office involved in the discussion and in actually learning to be aware of opportunity that hits them with commercial opportunities. So that I mean, bottom line, we don't want to leave any money on the table for you, us, or the market center for that matter. And Mercedes is one, and we've been working together off and on for a long time, who is very much aware of the fact that she creates opportunities. I'd say in the last few months, we probably worked off and on 4 to 5, maybe 6 different deals. There's 2 or 3 of them in process right now. And it works great once you establish the level of communication and again, the awareness. So that's part of what we're trying to accomplish. And said Nick is going to dig deeper into that particular piece. Okay, priority number 3 is recruiting.
Before you
go.
go on, just touching a little bit more on that, agents also, asking outside of residential is, do you have any commercial needs? Because, I have a partner XYZ, and can go from there instead of just, oh, I don't dabble in, commercial. Having that mindset of being able to team up with you and Nick and be able to create those opportunities, also asking for them is important.
Absolutely, 100%.
And I'd love
Go
to
ahead, Ryan.
piggyback off of that for a little bit. It's so weird hearing myself talk. But we received a phone call here the other day about somebody asking about commercial leases, but they were worried that the commercial side of things wasn't going to really care because it was technically a lease. And that's what I was trying. But the knowledge they didn't have the knowledge that leases work much differently in commercial than they do in residential. So I don't know the details. I'm not an agent. I'm learning just as much as anyone else. But that's one thing from talks with Nick and talks with Gary that I've had. Leases are so much more essential on the commercial side of things than they are on the residential side of things. So just something for everybody to keep in mind. Nick
here. So to further what Ryan said, leases are probably 80% of what we do. To be honest, I mean, leasing in commercial is everything. It's so different. And there's, I know there's a stigma with it that comes with residential real estate. It is not the same. It is far, far different as to how we get paid, how the structure of the deal works and the economics of it all work. It's a whole nother animal. And we'll go into detail about that today, how it generally works, and you guys can get some information about it. I agree with what Mercedes said. You guys can get paid by referring deals out, even if you're not going to touch it at all. All you do, make a simple introduction, ask for those leads. Those are always things that you should have in your back pocket that you can kick out, and you can create some decent residual income for yourself by literally sending a couple emails and occasionally checking your emails. So yeah, going back to what Gary was saying here.
I don't know if you guys
Thank you, Nick.
heard that again, but if I'm in your shoes as an agent, I'm writing that down. I'm writing that down on as many post-its as I can. You can get paid very quickly, very easily by referring out for commercial properties, especially if it's a lease.
I think the slide deck that Nick will be jumping into, if you post that for people that want to do it, it's a great outline, to basically watch. So he'll go through it, but I don't see any reason why they couldn't have access to that. Yeah. So let me get through item 3, priority 3, and then turn it back over to Nick, and you'll be able to see graphically, pretty much what he just said. So strategy 1, back to this internal and external focus. With recruiting, part of our job is to build this department and grow this department within the Vision office. That's going to be, an external focus, to try to bring in both talent and new people, and we can accommodate both. The internal side of that is we're not going to do an aggressive campaign inside to entice people to come over to our side, because there really isn't an our side, and there's different ways to do it. But what we will offer is the opportunity for somebody that wants to move, to the commercial side, either as an experiment with an eventual commitment, or whatever, there's ways we can accomplish that, and that door is open. It's not a closed loop. We'll be glad to work with you. We're just not going to, compete or cannibalize ourselves, unless it's the best thing, for the individual person, to make a move. So the second strategy is the KW commercial platform. Without going into too great a detail, when you sign on to Keller Williams Commercial, you are part of what is now about 2,500 agents or brokers that specifically do commercial, above board on the platform on a national basis, and that's out of the 175,000 or 180,000 agents within the company. That's what we represent, and you're going to see that number probably double very quickly as this thing picks up steam and grows. We're not the only office that is building and growing a division right now. It's happening on a pretty broad base, with the idea that we are going to turn KW Commercial into a player in the commercial game. So that platform is basically the tools, the things you get when you sign on to the program. Some of it is database driven, different marketing tools, being part of the network, the specialty groups, and all those things that you pay for to be part of the SWAT team that is Commercial Insider Company. The continuing education program is part of that, but I've got it marked as a separate entity because it is going to be so valuable to what we do, particularly in the recruiting strategy. I mean, we can take people that are brand new, that join some company, that go, I've been here a year and I still know what I'm doing. We got a place for them. Somebody that wants to take their game to the next level and get education much higher within the company, we can do that. And dropping down into our financial model, one of the advantages that we have with our capping, program, when somebody actually understands what that means, they can't touch it as a financial model in the commercial brokerage industry. Most commercial brokerage offices are at best on a 50-50 split. So when they finally realize they're leaving a lot of money on the table, we think that's going to open some doors for us. Obviously has in the past. One of the huge advantages is leveraging the KW brand. We are a now an identified critical part of what is the largest real estate brokerage entity on the planet that is continuing to expand and grow, and being able to leverage that brand in the commercial side of the business, which includes the referral network, is a huge opportunity for us. And it's something that as a company, they're looking to capitalize on, and we're certainly going to try to build that in a cooperative basis with the other side of the business here in the branch in the residential sector. And I think that's probably a good point while we're talking about referrals to do the handoff, unless there's any questions specifically against this material.
We'll give it a couple minutes. Any questions for Gary, for Nick? Drop them in the chat box right now.
All right, I'm going to hand it off to Nick. We've been partnering since pretty much the beginning of the year. Worked on a lot of deals together already, and with the hopes of working with you guys and doing a whole lot more business activity. But thank you for your time.
And Gary forgot that we're in 2022. So Gary and I've been a team together for a bit over a year and some change. November of 20, I think we linked up. So we've been working together for a bit now. And so we talk about referrals all the time. Ryan said earlier that the lease thing is often overlooked. We work with every type of transaction. So we work with guys that are looking to purchase buildings, guys that are looking to sell their buildings, guys that are looking to go out and lease space, and guys that are looking to have their spaces leased. So building owners or principals that need help leasing up their buildings. We do that in every asset of commercial real estate. So from industrial, office, retail, multifamily, which we consider to be 5 units or more, land acquisitions and development opportunities, and then business acquisitions and dispositions, which is a unique one that most commercial brokerages don't really promote that they do and generally don't do. And that's actually a pretty decent amount of our portfolio listings right now. Well, actually, not all, but most of our listings. So why would you refer a deal to us? I know that on the surface you hear referral and you think I'm going to make less money. And we'll go into detail about that. So Gary and I and the team that we're building out, we're all specialists in a respective asset class. So for myself, industrial, office, and land would be something that I specialize in. And Gary has a background in all of these asset classes, and has been doing this for a very long time. So we have you covered just between us two on those bases. As we continue to grow the team, the group will grow out to have individual specialists that specialize in multifamily only and retail only, and so on down the line. So that being one of the first reasons why you have somebody who truly understands the market that we operate in and the asset class that's going on, and how it's trending in the market and how we have to react to certain trend lines. Secondly, our office, as of January 1st, has began to limit residential agents from doing commercial transactions. We're going to be sending out the guidelines as to why that is, but essentially in the NAR guidelines, there's a requirement of competency within the transaction. And when we get into commercial transactions, and I'm sure there's people out there that have done them, there is a certain level of competency that needs to be had. And in a lot of cases, the office has seen that that is not something that has been had, and that exposes the office for lawsuits and for E&O claims, and ultimately is just a poor representation of our market center when transactions like that can go sideways. And in today's world, these deals have gotten quite complex, and even the most simple lease can turn out to be something that gets pretty squirrely. And we don't want that to happen to you, and we definitely don't want it to happen to the market center. The secondary reason to that too is the cost to operate a commercial business or to be a commercial broker like Gary and I. It's almost $1,000 a month for our office fees and all of our platforms that we need to use. And each of those platforms require at least a year commitment. So for you to come and do one deal, it'll barely pay for, your fees that you're going to have to cover for the year in order to get that deal done. So in the case where you refer the deal to us, sure, you make far less on the commission, but you don't have to have any obligation to purchase any platforms or sign up for any platforms. And the deals are going to get done. There's no floundering or trying to figure it out. The deals will get done. And CoStar, which is one of the major players in our industry of commercial real estate, they've cracked down hard on people using the systems and trying to cheat the system to the point now where, there is no, leniency. And there's so many people trying to cheat the system that, they crack down with fines and just adding people onto the accounts if they see them doing commercial transactions within market centers. So we are trying to avoid that to reduce liability within our office and for our group in general. Obviously, as I said, you probably don't have any experience dealing in one of these asset classes. And if you have, great. Let's have a conversation and figure out if you are truly competent in that field and can handle the transaction. If so, then we figure out a way to get it done. We're not here to try to take business away from people. We're here to try to help people who have opportunities to make money actually make money and convert their leads into transactions. Ultimately, that's our goal and why we have the system set up, and why the office and Keller Williams in general is moving this direction in its entirety. So generally, and we're going to get into this right now, the structure for referral starts as a basis of 20% of the gross commission. Generally speaking, most of the people we do deals with that are referral, they don't care to be involved. They make an introduction to their client, maybe hop on a phone call or two with us, are CC'd on a couple emails, and then off to the sunset, and everybody gets paid in, a timely manner, and we move on. So, for the amount of work that you do, we'd like to consider that you're generally compensated relatively well. How to refer, sorry. One more. There we go. So how do you start conversations? Gary and I are nice guys. As Brian likes to say, the commercial speak can be intimidating. We are super approachable and very friendly. We don't bite. But if you're really not comfortable coming up to one of us and asking us a question or sending us an email, you can always reach out to Ryan at the front desk and he'll link us in. And we can start that way. Generally, we're going to get back to you within a business day or so. It's usually much faster than that. But we just say that to create a buffer and set expectations for you guys. From there, we'll have a conversation in depth to understand what the client that you're going to be referring to us is in need of. And at that point, if we decide to proceed and it's a viable deal that we think can work, we'll execute a commercial referral. And we'll send out a copy of that to everybody so they can just see what it looks like and understand the information that goes on it. It's a pretty straightforward form. We put these together to make sure that everybody involved in these transactions is going to get paid and that there's an expectation that's set prior to the transaction commencing. And there's no surprises when you get a check and it's, for X amount and you were expecting it to be for another amount. So we're transparent in those agreements. They are very straightforward and we try to keep them fair. Once the agreement's executed, we are going to make an introduction to the client. We do that via phone calls, in-person meeting, email, whatever is kind of conducive for everybody. And then Gary, myself, or whoever is involved in the transaction is going to begin to work directly with that client. On occasion, there are agents that do like to be involved in the loop as to what's going on. At that point, we just CC you on the correspondence between the client and ourselves. And you're as in the loop as you're going to be in those transactions. Other people, and Mercedes is a good example, generally passes it on and collects her check when it's done. On a handful of deals, I think she likes to be somewhat involved, but generally she's a good example of someone who is pretty passive with the referrals and how involved they are. Yeah. Getting paid, this is what everybody cares about. The timeline here, it varies per transaction, and it is a little bit of a different process at times in residential. So similar to a residential transaction, there's clients' needs, there's how selective, not to say the word picky because I don't like that word, but how picky somebody can be towards a property, or what the inventory of that specific asset may or may not be. That obviously can affect the timeline as it does in residential real estate as well. With leasing, once the lease is fully executed, it can take up to 2 months to get paid. And in the PowerPoint, you'll see that we say before initial payment is remitted. On occasion, in certain types of leases, you get paid the first half when they sign the lease, and then you don't get paid the second half until they open for business. So like in a retail lease, that could be 2 to 4 months at times, sometimes longer. So, you'll get a check up front when you sign it, and then another check comes in a few months. It's not the worst thing ever, actually. It's kind of nice to get those surprise checks every now and again. And in the process, we have a TC that we work with that schedules out all of our transactions so that when we do get paid on them, you're paid, not, I can't say immediately, but generally Amy's pretty quick in processing everything, and compliance is pretty quick as well. So it's a pretty expeditious process getting those done. For purchases, it's the same thing as a residential transaction. Once escrow disperses the funds, you get paid out accordingly, based on a similar timeline as a residential transaction. It's pretty straightforward. Anybody have questions?
Do a brief pause for any questions. All right, moving forward.
All right. So some of the questions that come across our desk relatively often, and that some of you guys are probably thinking, but maybe a little too scared to ask or not comfortable asking. And I'll open with the first one, and it's a heavy question. I'm an experienced residential real estate agent. Why can't I handle a simple lease for a commercial transaction? Truth be told, you probably could. You know, half of our job is reading contracts and making sure that they're right. The other half of our job is using negotiating tools and devices that you're not likely familiar with. And the fact that these negotiations go back and forth in a format that's not standard in residential real estate. And you will not find comps. That's the difference between our industry and residential real estate. You guys can pull a comp from most anything that you do as a transaction, and you have information around you to go out and find that information to make an educated recommendation to your client. In our world, there are not comps. The way we get comps is occasionally through CoStar, but 95% of the comps that I get is because I reached out to a broker who I know completed a transaction, and I say, hey, what did this deal get done at? And that's how we get comps. It's a completely different world, and it's relationship based. There is no regulation that says you have to report what you finish transactions at. It's a wild world. So that alone puts you at a downside because you're negotiating blindly. You have no clue what the market is. You'd be basing off of what people are asking, which in today's world, a lease that was done 2 months ago is already below market. That's the reality of the world that we're living in. So, you know, going forward, yeah, the contract part you're probably capable of handling, but the negotiating part is far different, and that's why we are encouraging people to reach out to us and have a conversation, because at a certain point, maybe you have done enough of these, and it does make sense that you could handle a commercial transaction on your own. Like I said, we're not trying to take business away from you. We're just trying to make sure that you're capable of doing the business that you're trying to do. That it's just something that, as an office, you know, we've collectively spoken. It just makes the most sense to protect the interest of the office, and it's a simple conversation. We're talking about 30 minutes to see where you fall, and then make a decision on how we're going to proceed. It's very, very simple and straightforward.
Nick, it's Mercedes. I have another question.
Sure.
A little bit towards the commission and being paid out. I think it's important for you to share with residential agents how they're paid. Because if we, in our mindset, a lease, you're paid a percentage of 1 month of that lease. Or I'm sorry, like 12 months for the like 1 year percentage, but it's different in commercial.
Correct. So it in the last slide, and I don't know if on the Zoom thing you guys can see it, but the last line here is how do we get paid for leases, which is the major question that we get. So I will dive into that, but if further explanation, you could let me know. No, you're good, right? It's on the same slide. Yeah. Yep. So can we work together on a transaction for a higher commission split? Yes and no. In that situation, we limit the co-brokering of transactions to people who are going to be joining the division. So in co-brokering a transaction with us, you're essentially making a commitment to join the platform and incur the necessary fees to be a legit registered commercial member with KW Commercial. So those fees are approximately $1,000 a month to have the full package of all the services you need to generally be successful in the field. So yes, in certain situations, but generally, like I said, it is reserved for that. You know, each situation is unique, and we assess each one individually, but generally speaking, that is not something we do unless someone is going to be coming on board and is in that, you know, exploratory phase, if you will. Another question we're anticipating we're going to get because of the news, and we're going to get in front of it, is why did the office change its policy on residential agents handling commercial transactions? This is one of those things where, like I said, it's about exposure. At the end of the day, that's our job as agents, is to mitigate exposure to ourselves, for our clients, and for our office. And at the end of the day, a residential agent conducting, I'm going to say most, and I'm going to say that broadly, most commercial transactions is an added level of exposure that the office is not comfortable taking on at this point. And I don't want to say that I speak for the office, but we've been involved directly with Brian and the leadership team here. And this is the consensus that we came to. Like I said, again, we're not here to take your business away from here. We are here to work with you to get your deals done. and to help you guys further your cause. And, you know, if you were on wealth building earlier, grow your own personal wealth. This is one of those things that, you know, was long thought out, and we've been working on it for several months at this point. And going forward, like I said, if you have a commercial transaction, come talk to us about it. We're not always going to tell you no. We're always going to try to work with you to figure out a way that we can get the transaction done, because ultimately we're here to help ourselves service our clients and help you guys service your clients as well, which is, again, ultimately a representation of the office that we have here. Yeah. Any questions so far? I'm going to get into the last part, which is how you guys are all going to get paid here.
And do we have any questions here for Nick or for Gary? No, I think we're good.
Okay, moving on. So sorry, one more.
There we go.
How do we get paid for leases? So as Mercedes mentioned, the way that you get paid on leasing somebody's house for them or their townhome or condo is far different than the way that we get paid. So generally speaking, commission is 3% of the total consideration of the initial term of the lease. Meaning if you did a 5-year lease, you would take, and we did an example here on the screen, and you can see it. If the rent was $10,000 a month for 60 months, that's considered $600,000 in total consideration. So 3% of 600,000 is 18,000. Someone who referred us a deal that closed at that number with a 20% referral agreement would see a gross check of $3,600. And then you take your office splits down from there, and you net out what you net out, and we net out what we net out. Generally speaking, as I said, people refer these deals to us. They make an introduction. They might be involved in correspondence for some portion of it, but very, very rarely, if ever, are they involved in the transaction as far as asking for input or to do paperwork or to do anything beyond, like I said in the bottom there, possibly reading your emails and just staying in the loop. I know that you think on paper, you see that number and you think, wow, I'm getting the short end of the stick. It's all relative to the work that you do, in our opinion. And in this case, when you hand off the deal, we get it done for you, and we help your deal close. And all you did was make an introduction. When we see 20%, that's not a bad little payday for sending a couple emails. So going forward, like I said, if you have commercial inquiries, you have people that are commercial leads, even if they're just leads and they don't have anything that you're specifically been, in conversation with them about that they need, pass those our way. We'll set you up on an agreement and make sure that everybody's protected. Nobody does a deal with us without having the protection of the referral agreement. Mercedes can attest to that. Signed off by leadership. Mercedes can attest. James Oliveira can attest. We have deals out with, I don't know, Gary, how many people? I have no idea. I don't even know what eight to 10 different agents in our office right now, and some of them have multiple deals with us. So there's, every person that gets that agreement understands that they are protected and getting paid, and leadership is well aware that those agreements are out there, and signs off on every single one of them. So as far as getting paid goes, it sounds complicated. In all reality, it's pretty straightforward. But if you guys have questions, you can always reach out to us. Call the front desk, call Gary, call myself, call Brian, and he'll get us involved. Whatever you need. We're here to answer those questions. Yeah, kick us over to the next page, right? If you can. And then our contact info is in the bottom last slide here. Direct lines for all of us and direct emails for all of us. Like I said, we get back to you within a business day if you submit an inquiry to us regarding a commercial transaction. Anybody have any questions about getting paid or anything else they want to elaborate on?
It's your last chance to ask a couple questions. Please drop them in the chat below. I'd love to get you connected with our commercial guys here. Ernesto, Cindy, Sonia. All right, I think we're good.
Cool. Thank you guys for listening to our little spiel there. And like I said, if you guys have questions, always reach out.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much. This is our last focus group of the day. We know it's been a lot of information. All of this stuff will be posted on the Facebook page and on our YouTube as well, so you can go back and watch it anytime. Thank you guys once again for coming and spending your time with us. And yeah, have a great rest of your day, all. Thank you for joining
you,
in,
guys.
Ernesto. We really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Have a great one, Brian.